Alright, so I was watching CNN a minute ago and still on right now. Mm.
My next guest is also worried.
So now they're talking
Not only
about
is an expert
ISIS
on the relations
and
at the White House,
Trump
for Syria
and
Lebanon for the first 2 years
things of that
of
nature
the
again.
Syrian
And
crisis. So she's
also,
with me now, and so we're looking at just one of
you
her
know,
tweets from today. But let's just step back for a
like,
second and just remind
President
us
Trump
why
is
US
doing
troops are in
something so
Syria
wrong.
and what Turkey's
No
interests are.
president in
The US
office
troops
ever
went into
did
Syria
something
in
similar
2014
before,
as
right?
part of the effort to
I don't
fight
know what's going
ISIS.
on, right?
The area that they
But like I
went to
said,
in
I'm not
particular was an
pro
area that
Trump
had
or pro
cleaned ISIS out,
Democrats.
and they were there to help
It's just like
reconstruction
they
efforts,
seem like they're
development,
trying to do
ideally to
Trump
get
like
refugees to come
the
back to
Republicans
Syria,
did Bill.
which helps a
But
global
Bill had
recognition,
a
right? There's
scandal with Paula
a
Jones
pattern
and
for
then
all of
Monica
this, and a
Lewinsky,
cycle for all
right?
of it. And certainly to counter Iranian influence.
And he lied under oath.
We'll come back to Iran in just a second, but first, just with this move, what are the short-term
Sorry,
and
I'm going to
long-term
mute it.
implications, just even in terms of the
It's
Kurds,
a mute
refugees?
Right. Well, the United States backed the Kurds that live in that part of Syria. They funded them. They equipped them in order.
Now, I know Trump's far from perfect if you're wanting the perfect president. I don't know what you want there either. Like politics ain't tricky in the first place, right? Now, Trump's also a businessman, right? Businessmen are a little more cutthroat than politicians, I know. You know what I mean, right? Trump, if he's got to deal with you, he gonna make sure he gonna get out ahead. Silly. And that's just how he was taught to do business practices, not necessarily run the country, right? Those are two different things, too. But anyway, when you're dealing with people who have their own agenda opposite of you, right? You're not going to get anywhere with them, really. There's a reason for that. They're being your opposition, and don't like what you're doing either. Now, here's the problem with people who you date and then mess with you and then act like you're the problem when it's them because you're being treated for a mental illness versus, again, right, still under the condition you were when you met, right? Now, she was around me more when I was off medication, and that's Sheena, Daphne, and Maribel, than when I was on them, right? Which is now. And like I said, I don't know what happened with Sheena. I kind of know what happened with Daphne, and I kind of know what happened with Maribel, but they're, again, three different situations. Now, after Maribel, alright, and Michelle, which, like I said, right, I'm kind of being around women who won't commit to me like I need them to know if they want to be in a serious relationship with me or not. And I have a religious upbringing like everybody else, but mine might involve a role in the church called the two witnesses. Right. Well, that's because I had a dream after my dad was murdered, having to do with a throne. On the throne was a light, and I was standing in front of it. Right. And between me and the throne was the kind of mist or a cloud. Right. Like I was standing in a cloud in heaven, right? Now, the Bible says, Heaven is my throne and the earth is my footstool, right? Well, that also applies because metaphorically, a male is called heaven and the female is called earth. That's because genetically, the male is XY and the female is XX. One is the determiner of the sex of the child, and one is the base or the ground that the child comes out of. Now, you also see this in plants and things of that nature too, right? Now, the seed is planted into the ground, which is nourished, and out comes another tree, right? That's how it works with them. Mm-hmm. But with us, since we're a more advanced life form, maybe, where we can do things the tree can't do, right? Among them is move around them, right? Mm-hmm. Well, this all stems from a certain sin in Eden. Now, like everybody else, I was taught Adam and Eve ate from this fruit tree, and like ambrosia, right? Ambrosia gives you immortality, but this tree made you immortal, right? I didn't have a problem with that, right? But then I start reading about a group called the Gnostics in '93 before I met Mary Bell anyway. Mm-hmm. Or Daphne and things of that nature, right? So I'm learning about all this while I'm with these women, right? I met and mentioned, right? Including Sheena first and then the others, right? But like everybody, I didn't hear about that until then as well. Mm-hmm. Well, the Gnostics were saying something a little different about the tree. Mm-hmm. One, it was to give them knowledge that they didn't have about an activity. Mm-hmm. It also suggested that the serpent was wiser than God, right? But it also talks about God being the problem in making the world in the first place. But all this ain't talking about creation itself, right? It's kind of a sarcastic view of the world from the serpent's point of view, not, again, what we're taught in the typical biblical translation of it, right? It's kind of a, satanic point of view. How do I know? Well, it kind of don't make sense when you understand whether it was a fruit tree, right, or whatever, right? It says that it's having a problem with the physical world, right, and the terrestrial universe which God made, right? Well, see, the Creator knows what it did when it made the planet we live on. Mm-hmm. But if we're being overtaken by one of its children, like us, that would explain why we're so confused by it all. Mm-hmm. What this being is doing is playing God, and like it don't want us to be in existence at all. And it's not God, because God is not the author of confusion, like Matt's girlfriend Sheena Johnson said, right? But man is. See, the Bible will have God say, I am God and not a man, or not man. Well, people don't even know that if you're a Christian and what it means, right? Now, they know a lot about the New Testament, but not as much about the Old, right? And that's because, like most Christians, we're taught the New. Mm-hmm. Well, there was an Old, and even the Jews stopped preaching what Moses originally preached, nor what the prophets originally preached. And it looks like they're moving away from their own true faith, right? Not to judge them as a people, but as a religious group, like any other religious group, right? As well. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm critiquing their religion itself, right? Not the individuals who call themselves or associate themselves as being a child of Abraham and a direct descendant of Isaac. Not talking to them, right? I'm talking about their religious faction that came up after all that. Mm-hmm. Now, originally, okay, Moses is trying to tell these people something, but maybe by the time of Jesus, they're not quite getting it, right? And Jesus tries to explain it differently too, right? And I am trying to follow Jesus myself, so again, right, I'm trying to understand it too. Now, we're all human, right? Right. But there's a character also called the Beast. He's the bad guy, right? Then there's the character called the Two Witnesses, I know, who also come out during this time, who are trying to shepherd you to Jesus, whereas the Beast is trying to shepherd you to Satan, right? Well, the problem is, okay, we're all confused about it, right? But we don't all want to understand what John means about the seals in Revelations. Well, Isaiah also mentions a book that is being sealed. And what's being sealed is the knowledge that the book has as a whole. What that means is, like, when I was a Christian, right, and grew up in Georgia, I was taught basic stories from the Bible like we all were. I was taught about David and Bathsheba, David and Goliath, Moses, Jacob, the Ten Commandments, right? We all know those stories growing up. Right. So anyway, when you're telling someone a story and they want to focus on one part of the story and it's a whole story, not a part story, they're looking for a crumb that you're not really giving them, because it's not about them, it's about your life for you, not their life, even if they're involved with your life. Well, see, they can have the wrong idea about me, and I don't even know who they are or were, even if they were with me sexually. But that's everybody we got to deal with that way. Now, every person, okay, is on this planet, and we all seek a boyfriend, girlfriend, and some seek the same sex, and some seek the opposite sex, and some will have sex with any being, male or female. They just get around that way. But the thing is, to admit, we all do it. First off. Now, if I'm reading the Gnostics correct, though, they also talk in a book called Baruch by Justin, right? Not Justin the pop star. I know. Either one. But a Christian in the 1st century or 2nd century who the book was addressed to, right? Named Justin, right? Now, I don't know Justin Timberlake or Justin Bieber or any of them, right? That's not about them. But they do have a name with a character that is mentioned in one of the Gnostic Gospels. Now, the Catholics, though, they don't want you to read the Gnostic Gospels because it might confuse you. Well, the only way it can confuse you if they didn't want to hear what the Gnostics are really saying. And if they tell you not to do it, though, what's going to happen there? Some people won't do it at all. Some people will in rebellion, and some people will not even be aware of it, right? It's even an issue. That's normally how people deal with information anyway. Some will look into it, some won't, and again, some don't even know about it still. You know what I mean, right? So that's the problem. The Gnostics also act like God is against the material world and more for the spiritual world. That's not true either. God wouldn't have created the world. They're also acting like it's an evil God that created the world, but no, that's not true either. That's Satan's viewpoint of God's creation of the world, not God's, right? A creator that loves you created you for a good reason, but if something evil doesn't like you, that's the problem. And you're confusing the evil being with the good being, and that's our problem too. Right. You're trying to make them the same being, right? When they're not. They're two different beings, right? but they're in a different dimension than you, right? They're in a different reality, more of a spiritual thing, right, than a physical thing. Paul compares the angels like the sun is to the earth, right? The sun is a ball of nuclear explosions that somehow keeps the planet alive, right? But it can also harm the planet, like angels can do. Now, when an angel, like with the orcs and the elves, like in Tolkien's Lord of the Rings trilogy, and also the Hobbit trilogy, with books like that, they're trying to open up your mind to what's going on in heaven as well, but using different characters like elves versus orcs, who were once elves who were turned by Sauron or whoever to the dark side of life, right? And that's us all. Anyone can turn to the light side or the dark side. Oh, yeah. Now, the dark side of life is where you're breaking all the rules. You're not being a normal person. Right. And you're acting like that's normal for everyone when you're just the one doing it yourself, right? Well, I'm not addressing people because of their sexuality or if they're having a gender crisis or things like that. I understand those things happen too. But that's different, too, than murder, rape, assaulting people, stealing people, things from people, and lying to people while committing such acts. These are the 5 deadly sins, right? You actually commit to each other in life, right? Now there's 7, right? Deadly ideas, right? That have to do with lust, greed, gluttony, things of that nature, right? These are born from a lie. But like all human beings, we have to deal with these realities of good and evil every day. And this is kind of philosophy 101. Now, I was raised a Southern Baptist. I became a Pentecostal in the Navy, right? And now I'm kind of non-denominational and read into everything. Judaism, Christianity, Hinduism, Buddhism. And unlike people who think their book is the only right book, I no longer see that as true. I see it as the spirit of life is trying to reach us through all religions, but it's also bringing out different points of life itself too, right? And people might not want to hear it all. Now, if I'm pointing out something we all do, right? Like I talked about the guys I was around introduced me to a phrase referring to dark-skinned people and calling them a phrase called porch monkey. Which until my friends told me that phrase and applied it to them, I didn't know what it meant, right? And really until I was older, I didn't understand it. But I also don't use it towards them because now I do, you understand, right? But I'm using the word because it's a compound word. Porch and monkey. Okay? And again, I also found out there are a group of people who have Rh negative blood and Rh positive blood. Well, what does that mean? Well, Rh positive blood is from the rhesus monkey. somehow our body, as if we had sex with something that had a rhesus monkey gene, has a rhesus monkey gene in it. And the only way this could happen, right, is if there's a creature similar to the human being, but different in its physiology. And this creature in us had to have sex at one point in time and produce hybrids, half human and half it. Now, if I'm reading the Bible and the Gnostics' interpretation of it correctly, they're suggesting this creature is really the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And God was warning us, or the tree of life, if you will, not to have sex with it in that language and form, but they didn't understand what it meant, nor did they ask it to clarify it. Which was part of the test that the angels in heaven were allowing us to go through to see if we were worthy or unworthy to rule the earth. Right? And when we sinned with this being, we gave it the dominion in place of ourselves, and we became more like it than the tree of life, and therefore we died 930 years later. According again to the author of the book called Genesis, authored by Moses, who is the prophet of Israel, who they try to follow and learn from. But the problem is, their religion has become myths and superstition. When a religion, no matter who started that religion, becomes myth and superstition, you no longer are teaching what the original author intended to, with what he wrote and left behind, right? But what he wrote and left behind is an example for you to try and understand it, but it's not the whole story either, right? From what really happened to what didn't. You also don't know if he's not fabricating some of it to make a point, but also to kind of show you how to behave, which is the main point of the Torah, which means law. Portions of the first 5 books of Moses. Now, Leviticus is the Torah of the Bible. Exodus and Genesis are kind of building up to it, and Numbers and Deuteronomy are when they're in the land, and again, until they get to the land, right? They're supposed to be getting to, and that they were promised by God. Now, do you want to argue with someone that they think they own a piece of land? Obviously you do. But that's no different than the Greeks living in an area you call Greece. Or again, the Italians living in an area you call Italy. Right? And you're calling it that and setting borders that are invisible or visible only to you. So you become land barons. Baal. Masters. Adonai in the Hebrew. Or Adon. Or Adonas, which is female. Feminine, right? And things like that. You become landlords. And things of that nature. Now, the thing is, every human being needs certain things in life. Among them is food, sometimes clothing, and shelter, and an area to occupy as their own area. Sometimes we need a little bit of privacy too, right? And again, not saying you don't. But sometimes you want to be alone and sometimes you don't, right? That's when you go out or whatever, right? Things of that nature. Now, it ain't as though I was born with a disability that developed in the military without a reason. But the reason would involve people I was around who are acting like they can't influence me positively or negatively, and were doing what they were supposed to be doing, but by their opinion and not mine. Right. See, some people do what they think is right for them, but it might not necessarily be right to you. And in the process, they might interfere with your life because they're not the same person or understand things the same as you do. And then they become a bully to you, doing it differently than you were taught to do it and trying to push their way onto you. Often people learn in school about a term called a bully. On YouTube, it's called trolling someone and things of that nature. But one attitude, I know, is not justified and one is. Right. Now, usually the bully, though, especially in grade school, will pick on a smaller kid. Well, this probably stems from his relationship with his father or a male figure at home who is bullying the bully into becoming a bully, using his size to intimidate the child, to where the child then intimidates another child, right? And again, starts a cycle and a process and a psychological defect with that child, to where the child starts acting out that way towards other human beings. This is a learning process. And the thing is, it's hard to break a pattern, right, in your life. And whether it's a good one or a bad one as well. Yeah. Right. Like we normally eat 3 meals a day here in America, right? You eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Well, in some places in the world, they're lucky if they even get 1 meal a day, or one every 2 or 3 days even. Right. So again, count your blessings, but again, try to help the less fortunate too. Right? Because we're all human here. Right? We're all going through similar but different things, and we all need similar and different things too. But a lot of people want to bully you when they don't even know who you are. And you're making them think crazy thoughts and blaming them for you attacking them like you're not attacking them. They're just telling the story about how you did them, and you're not wanting to hear it anymore. Well, if we're both doing each other wrong, I have to tell you from my perspective what you're doing wrong to me, and hear your side of what you think I'm doing wrong to you, and then we have to either agree or disagree on who's doing each other the wrongest, right? As well, right? Right. Now, if I'm labeled with a mental illness, and it started with delusionary disorder, grandiose type, then went to schizophrenia, which is the more severe mental illness, and then the bipolar, which is less than schizophrenia, but more than delusional. Right. Now, the reason I went is up until that time I was in the military, and I never had a problem except for mild sleeping after a car wreck. And again, I'm in the military, so I'm trying not to fall asleep on watch. And things of that nature. Because that's a criminal or a punishable offense in the military. Right. Now, again, though, if you have a vision problem in your right eye and you disclose that to the military, they are aware you might have to blink your eyes or close your eyes more often than, say, someone who doesn't have a vision problem in their eye. And again, closing your eyes, if you do have that situation, does not always mean you're asleep either. But again, if someone accuses you of being asleep and your eyes are closed, you can't do much about it. If they what? Done made up their mind. Done made up their mind. But if they're trying to get you in trouble the whole time you're on the ship, because you don't know nothing about the ship and they do. They're supposed to be training you, but they aren't. And they're blaming you for not knowing what to do as if you can read their mind and fucking do it any other way. I know. Like you got some kind of osmotic connection with them, Chief. And know what to do when you don't. Senior Chief or Master Chief, whatever you were. But the problem is, okay, I'm a 50-year-old man this November, right? Do I look like a spring chicken to you? No. Do I look like I was born yesterday to you? No, I was born 49 years ago. Right. That means I've been through things, right? So have you, that are similar to you but different than you too. That don't mean we're the same person, nor does that mean we look at things the same way either. Right? That's the whole point I'm making here. Now I'm being attacked by someone on YouTube who is trying to confuse me about my life as if they know about me more than me, right? When they don't. No. The only one who knows me perfectly is just that, me. Not you. And if you try to compare me to others, you can't do that either because we're individuals too. Some things have to be on by a case-by-case basis. What that means is some people, okay, might be affected by a situation differently than others and might can do something different that the other person can't do, but that they can do. Not because they're necessarily better, but because they trained in a different area than the other person trained in and were able to do it. Certain things that the other person didn't think they could do, but they did it anyway. Despite what they thought they could do. Well, if that person attacks you, because you did something they didn't think you can do and calls you a liar all the time, it don't really make you a liar. It makes them a liar. But they don't want to admit it. And then they're acting all scared of you because you did something they don't think they can do. But you're not presenting it that way to them. You're presenting it as a choice you were taught you couldn't do, that I didn't limit myself in doing it. And I did it, and it didn't hurt me like it hurt you. But the reason I'm doing it is, again, I have a different mindset towards it. But if you were to do it one time, it would really hurt you because you believe it would. So don't do it your way. You would hurt yourself. But doing it my way ain't wrong for me either. Right. So like I told you, I'm telling you a story. Right. About my life, which is my business, not yours. Now, even if you dated me for a while, or we were married, or whatever, right, my version of it is going to be different than yours, so that's my opinion of it, right? And if you did me how you did me, that's all I can tell you, what I remember happening and what I don't as well. Now, no one remembers everything, right? And perception isn't always reality for a person either. Sometimes you have to deal with other people and listen to their point of view as well. Whether they're right or wrong, you again have to come to commonality as well, or what's called common sense or common agreement. Now, how can you also understand this? Well, like in a circus, you have different acts. You have a juggler who learned to juggle. You have the flying trapeze who do the flying trapeze. You have an animal tamer who tames the lions, right? Because he learned to tame the lions, like Siegfried and Roy, for example. But again, even Siegfried and Roy, as you all know, can get hurt by the animal if they do something wrong. Right? That's another example. Just like an animal can attack you in a wild, if you're training one to do a particular act with you, that animal can attack you too. But what changed is the animal also aware of your opinion of it. Now, the animal has ears and eyes, mouth, and body like you. It also sees, hears, feels, tastes, and touches. So you're a human being judging Roy and the animal. And you're telling the animal two things. Where the animal is hearing what you're all saying. The animal did something to Roy. And again, you all knew it would happen. But did you all make it happen as well? And don't want to take responsibility because Roy should have knew better. That too. And blamed Roy too, right? And the animal. You knew it would happen. But, like with a guy I was working with named Robinson, we were brought up into the lieutenant's office, so to speak, and were asked certain questions. And I have been out of A school longer than him. He was just new to the ship. And the lieutenant asked us a question about an electrical part. Don't even remember the part either. And again, we were trying to figure out the answer. Right. And I thought it was this part. Right. So I said, I think it's this part. I believe it's this part, right? But the lieutenant, knew it wasn't that part. And the other guy agreed with me initially. But because the lieutenant knew, and I could tell we were wrong, right? I finally remembered the correct electrical part he was asking us about and corrected us both. But the guy I did the thing with act like I sabotaged him. When what it really was is I didn't remember the correct answer myself either until after the lieutenant hinted that it was the wrong answer we both gave initially. And then the right answer, because I was in A school too, popped into my head, right? That's not sabotage, Robinson. That's memory recall. Not because I was being taught that anymore, but because like him, I went through A school. And I remembered, and it was brought forward to my mind what the actual piece of equipment was. And I answered the question correctly. Now, if someone blames you like you're trying to show them up when you're not, who's really the saboteur there? Robinson or me? Him. He's the one fresher from A school. He should have remembered it over me. But the question also stems to ask, Robinson, did you get in trouble for it because I gave the correct answer? Or did I just make you in your mind look bad by remembering the right answer because I was out of A school longer than you And no one was training me to be an electrician anyway on that ship before I even met you too. But you want to blame me for suddenly remembering the correct answer like I intentionally sabotaged you when you agreed with me initially yourself, and then when the lieutenant hinted it was the wrong answer, thought about it some more and came up with the right answer. That's not sabotage, asshole. It's remembering the correct answer when the lieutenant hinted it wasn't the right answer. Himself. That's called an honest mistake. What is the difference between an honest mistake and someone intentionally doing something like that to you? Well, one is the attitude of the person, right? Okay, he knew that would happen with us. I didn't know that would happen because I've been out of A school longer than him, right? And had he not backed me up and the lieutenant not act like it was the wrong answer anyway, I wouldn't have thought about it a little bit more and come up with the right answer. But had I not came up with the right answer, we both would have still been what? Wrong. But he blamed me, okay, like I even knew him. Or him me. Unless someone's telling him I'm going to do that too, like King. Which I've gotten into that too. Again, if you already have a bad attitude towards me, what can I do about it? And I don't even know you either. Nothing. But you're not having the bad attitude because of me. You're having it because of someone else who don't know me either. And it's trying to convince you I'm the bad apple when it's him. If you understand what I mean. Now that's called perspective. And your perspective and his perspective and my perspective weren't the same. Nor was Lieutenant Guzman's perspective the same as mine and his either. Now, Lieutenant Guzman probably thought we were working together to come up with the correct answer, and I got the correct answer, honestly. He didn't act like it was any problem for me to come up with the correct answer. We both left the scene. Right. And no one got in trouble either. We gave the correct answer finally. Right. It's like when you're taking a test and you don't quite remember the correct answer, but then you go over the question again a few times and then it pops into your head. Right. That's all that would be, dumbass. But if you're not my friend and you're sabotaging me, you're going to think I'm sabotaging you. When I don't even know you either. But that's probably not because of you. It's probably because of someone else. You understand what I mean? But you think he's your friend when he's fucking with us both to put us against each other. You know what I mean there too. His sabotage caused you to think I would sabotage you when I didn't. But I also couldn't correct it with you that we could be friends either. Because of someone else, right? Now, when someone's sabotaging you, okay, it's harder to prove it because they don't come out and attack you in the open. Right. They do it subtly like the devil did with Adam and Eve in Eden. So, that's the point as well. They've gone from being a decent person into being an evil person, and they're taking out their frustrations on you. And you can't do nothing about it because you're stuck on the ship with this motherfucker till you get off yourself. And that's the problem. It ain't the church itself. It's the person you have to work with who got a bad attitude towards you and won't correct it. And blames you for everything you're trying to do right. And he ain't doing right anymore towards you or anyone, and is trying to focus all his anger and hatred on you like you're the problem, not him. And a lot of people do that to other people as well, not caring about them or themselves. Now, whoever's attacking me is acting like that person did towards me as well. And they're mad with me again for surviving whatever they did to me on base when I had an accident there. And the only way they can know if I was injured or not, if I died or not, is if they, again, saw me after the accident or during the accident. They can't know any other way either. But they would also use a disability, okay, against me like they did on the ship. Which disability happened 2.5 years after being on the ship, not all at once either. It happened gradually. They don't want you to know that about me. They just want you to know I'm mentally ill. Right, but I won't stop defending